This meeting of the Franklin Township Environmental Commission is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law. This meeting of May 19th, 2025 was included in a list of meetings notice sent advertised in local newspapers, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, posted on the municipal website, and is required notice under the statute. In addition, a copy of the notice has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. Okay. So we'll do roll call. Stan?
Yes, I'm.
Ellen?
Yes, here.
Walter?
Here.
Ed? Here. And myself. We have a quorum. And Ed's here as well. We add you in when we do the list. I don't have much to say for the environmental chair, but I just want to bring up, just to bring up to date on the B9 warehouse and the Onyx warehouse. B9 was adjudicated. Judge Menon issued a 41-page report, which I read, and he basically praised the attorney from the Canal Walk HOA who was mediating with B9 and worked out a whole series of mitigation provisions, which the judge seemed to think was legally realistic. But he dismissed all the defense arguments from the township and remanded the whole thing back to the planning board to negotiate reasonably realistic provisions. There's still one real outstanding point, is that B9 wants two driveways. One on the right side to furnish, to aid the larger parking lot for cars, and the one in the middle of the building area would be for trucks and cars. But there's a small parking lot to the left, and the township wants a third driveway so that we separate the cars from the trucks. B9 doesn't want to do that because that requires a variance, and B9 doesn't want to have any variances. So I don't know how that's going to come out, but that's one of the issues that needs to be reasonably discussed, and we'll see what happens. There were otherwise everything. The noise ordinance is also in contention to some extent, but the water management issue raised by the public through the Seaway Group was dismissed. So we go from there. The Onyx proposal is the one to be at a small warehouse on New Brunswick at Old New Brunswick Road. And there were, as I mentioned at our council meeting, there were two pipelines running right next to where the building would be. And Buckeye was not happy with that. But they've now come to an agreement. They've widened the buffer. I know you were at that meeting, I think, they discussed. They widened the buffer, moved so that the pipeline would be in the middle of the buffer rather than on the side. And they got rid of the cement above the pipeline and having soil. And they moved the building back a little. It's a lot of changes. And there were a whole series of changes that they made. In July, I think, is when they're going to hear it again and see what happens. And also because they can't come in from Old New Brunswick Road from Elizabeth, they have to change the intersection of Old New Brunswick Road and New Brunswick Road. And they want to widen they make it 3 lanes going into the site, have to move the corners back, change that. The problem is on one side, Somerset Woods, the nursing home, didn't know anything about this. Management changed, and they're up in arms because they think some of their property is being taken. But as I heard at the meeting, people are not quite sure where the boundary is between the township and the property of Somerset Woods.
The thing is that the boundary line of their property, the front boundary line, should be what it was before New Brunswick Road was repositioned. In other words, when what is now Old New Brunswick Road was New Brunswick Road, and it went straight through. And now, of course, they've got a more 90-degree intersection, so that should leave us a piece in front that would be still Township.
Okay. But
I'm just,
I know, you were there, you heard the same discussion.
yeah, I don't know whether that was quite said in so many words, but that's the way I perceive it.
Right. So that one, Somerset Run's residents are up in arms, and that's why they moved the meeting to the Board of Ed's meeting instead of town council. But, so that's also hanging out. So that's my real report, just an update for everybody on those two outstanding grants. After that, we'd like to look at the approval of the minutes for May 5th, the meeting for May 5th.
So move.
second,
Stan, any changes, anybody, Ellen? Walter? If there's no changes, we'll vote to accept the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes accepted. Okay. We're now up to public comment period. And we have somebody here from the public who would like to make some statements.
You gotta open it first. You didn't open
I
it.
have to. Motion to open the meeting to public comment.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Go right ahead, Lisa.
Okay, super. So who here is aware of the situation that I'm facing with my neighbors at number 45?
45 what? No.
45 County Road 518.
I think most of them know
Oh, wait.
most of the details, yeah.
The tree removal.
Yeah.
And
That's how
brush.
it started.
Oh.
That's part of it. Okay, so the question is, my house is number 43, their house is 45. Both of our properties back up to township, how do you call it, preserved open space? Both of our properties, unbeknownst to me, I was completely unaware that part of both of our properties seemed to be wetlands. I wasn't aware of this at all. I also wasn't aware that my property line goes straight back, and then my other property line goes straight back 100 feet, and then takes a wild curve this way, meaning that my neighbor's property is essentially in my backyard. So, if my neighbors were nice, this wouldn't be a problem. But the week before Easter, they came over, 6 of them, and they came behind my house, and they started chopping down vegetation and cutting down berry bushes. And I went back and I said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "We're looking for the property markers because we intend to put a fence back there." Now that I've become aware that this is wetlands, I'm in disagreement with the fact that this is completely untouched natural environment, that nobody has cut anything down in forever, as much as I can tell. We have turkeys living back there, we have bunnies, we have cute little things living back there, lots of birds. And for them to put a fence and on this wild angle across wetlands and into the forest and up against town open space, apparently would mean they would put this on wetlands, which apparently they can't. So I contacted the DEP and I said, please send them a letter and say part of your property is on wetlands and you can't put a fence there. And the DEP gave me some crazy answers like, we don't have a map and we don't know where the lines are. And so they were completely useless. So my understanding is if they want to put a fence on wetlands, they need a permit from the DEP, but if they apply for a permit from the DEP and the DEP says we don't have a map, then we're going around in circles. So that was one issue. The second issue came up with the fact that their entire backyard has bamboo, spreading bamboo, which is spreading to my property and spreading to the town preserved open space. So on March 7th, I believe, I wrote a nice innocent letter to Mr. Vornlocker and I said, I see the bamboo coming towards my property really fast. The house is still not occupied. What can I do about this bamboo spreading? And unbeknownst to me, again, there's an ordinance about bamboo in the town. And so the town came and saw this huge, massive field of bamboo, and they wrote a letter to the homeowner and said, you have to remove it. So now my neighbors really are angry at me, and they even are more intent on putting a big fence up because now they're really angry about the bamboo. But now here's my real problem with the bamboo. Apparently there are 2 ways to remove bamboo. The proper way and the way where you dump a bunch of herbicides all over to kill it. So these people do not really seem to know what they're doing. I think it's their first time they've owned a property. First of all, they didn't notice the bamboo, so but they're not really very in tune with what's going on. So, yes,
Yeah, they knew, when did they purchase the property?
they probably purchased property in 2023, but they haven't lived there yet, and this brings up my third problem. That's another big problem that I actually just made big progress on today. But my real concern with the bamboo is who is supervising how it's eradicated? Because if they're just gonna go back there and douse this whole entire woodlands, wetlands, going up to town preserve space with chemicals like that, we can't let that happen. And these people have no idea what they're doing, and someone has to tell them, like, you have to eradicate the bamboo in a proper way. So I've been in touch with Daryl, Gregory, and I've said, please tell them that they can't just go dousing herbicides everywhere. But I don't know what zoning is doing about that. So I need somebody to back me up here. Like, I can't go to my neighbors and say, who is your bamboo company and how are they planning on eradicating it? But the turkeys, the bunnies, everybody who's back there, like, we can't have just gallons and it's a football field size of bamboo. So the amount of pesticides that we're talking about is a massive amount. Then it brings up, oh my gosh, even another problem that is extraordinary. But apparently, this house was a 3-bedroom ranch house and has a cinder block basement, an older home. These people have put in a permit to put bathroom and bedrooms in their basement. Apparently, you can apply for a permit to finish your basement without anybody looking into how high the water table is. Somebody from the town was here today, I can't remember if it was engineering, somebody named Shaw. Does anybody know who Shaw is? Shaw Keller?
Township assistant, township engineer.
Okay, thank you. He came today to inspect the entire problem. And he said that because they weren't trying to make their basement bigger, but they were just trying to finish it, they didn't have to have a study done of the water table. So this is where my issue is with that, is that with these heavy rains we've had, there's so much water being pumped out of that basement on a continual basis that it's extraordinary to me. First I saw the water just shooting out of the front of the house. And I have the phone number of one of the homeowners, and I texted, I said, water's shooting out of the front of your house. I said, this isn't normal because it hasn't even rained in 2 weeks. But then it did start to rain, and then it really rained a lot. And so much water was shooting out of the front of this house that there was now a big standing water, in front of their house. So the contractor, to solve the problem, put a huge gutter pipe and a PVC pipe and held it all up with a rock and pointed it all at my property. Woohoo! Now we're making great progress here, right? So now all the water's coming to my property. So now there's like a little river of water coming from their property. And another issue is that a lot of the silt from their construction project is now running back into the wetlands and back into the woodlands, and it's all just extraordinary. So now they're flooding my property with their water. Saturday I found a turtle in my yard, which to me means there's just too much water. They're pumping all the water from what seems to be the water table, pumping it through their pipes and their gutters, and they're pumping it all. None of this makes any sense. I just can't take it anymore. The people just don't know what they're doing. And so Shaw came over today, and he heard my whole story that I just repeated, I'm sorry. And he said he's going to put a stop on all further construction until we can get to the bottom of this, because it's such a disaster. This has been going on for 2 years. It's been going on since August of 2023. So there are 3 separate issues. The fact that they want to cut down vegetation, cut down trees, and put a fence on what apparently is wetlands. The fact that no one is monitoring how they're eradicating the bamboo and that they might just douse the whole area with pesticides. And the fact that they're pumping seemingly all of the water from the water table and they're pumping it through my property back into the wetlands, which it can't be good. Like we're disrupting nature on so many different levels here that it's just not cool. So I know Shaw's trying to help me, Daryl's trying to help me, but like, how do we contact the homeowner and say, what's your plan for the bamboo? You can't put a fence on wetlands without DEP permission. Like, somebody has to clue them in because they just don't know what they're doing.
And you said you had called the DEP, the Warren DEP line, right?
I didn't because nothing's happening. They said I have to wait until the fence company starts, chopping everything down and erecting the fence before I said, no, we're not waiting that long. We have to do something before we get to that point, because once we start chopping down trees and bushes and everything, now it's going to take years and years and years for all that to grow back. So I just am tired of dealing with this, first of all, because I have other things I should be doing. But somebody has to write a letter to these homeowners and let them know that there are rules, regulations, and ordinances, but this is my question. Is there a town ordinance on bamboo? And how
There is.
No, but how it can be eradicated?
Is there an approved method?
No, so I looked, here's the ordinance up here. There's actually nothing in the ordinance about how it should be eradicated.
I think that
So when I
needs to be
did
addressed.
speak to DPW on it, our Department of Public Works, they basically said that the proper way to eradicate is to dig it up by the roots. Because, even if
That's
someone was to
the proper
use
way.
herbicide, it won't work. It'll just grow back
But
anyway.
these people, I'm positive, want to just do it as cheaply as possible.
Yeah.
And so I'm very concerned that they're not going to do it the proper way.
The only thing is that I can say, and I don't know now, so in terms of them removing the bamboo, I don't know that we can send someone a letter that says we're concerned about how you may remove the bamboo until we know how they're gonna remove the bamboo. You know what
How
I'm
do we
saying?
change the town ordinance to say that pesticides and herbicides can't be used to remove bamboo?
It doesn't say anything that they can or cannot be used in there. It also doesn't specify how it should be removed. So I see your point.
But the DEP said that you can't use any kind of pesticides on the wetlands without some special
Right.
kind of permit. But these people don't even seem to know that their property is partially on wetlands.
Can you
So they're just
see on the
not.
map whether this is wetland?
I can see on the map if this is wetlands, but, give me 1 second here. Which property is the one you're talking about? So this is, let me get out of here.
It's the lot 33, right?
It's lot 33, this one here,
It's you.
because this is the county preserved open space here.
Which house is you?
Which house is
I
yours?
think
and
I'm
which is-
34.
You're third, so you're this one here.
Yes.
And your neighbor is this one,
Yes.
33, okay. All right, so let's see what's going on here
Wait,
then.
is that true?
Is this your which house is yours? This is
This is
that,
the house with the big pool.
yep.
And then there's the yellow, where's the yellow house?
Yours is the one next to the
Yours is
long
this
narrow.
one.
That is mine.
That's you. So then your neighbor is this one on this side?
Yes, and then we have the yellow house and then the
Okay,
people with
so
the
it's
pool.
definitely number
Yeah.
33. Okay,
Okay.
all right, so we know that. Okay, give me a sec here then.
Wait, so she's 33 or 34?
She's 34, the neighbor is 33.
Where's the wetland?
Hold on 1 second.
Can you figure that
Yep,
out?
give me 1 second here. Now this, this is not 100%, you have to get to know exactly where it starts and ends. You have to get a wetlands delineation done, but we can at least look at the mapping.
DEP said I would have to hire an environmental consultant.
Yes.
That
So your back portion here, so this is the wetlands,
Ooh.
okay? This is you
Fascinating.
here, this is there. Now, it's not 100% until
But
it's,
that's a pretty big part of their
Yeah.
yard, that's wetlands.
This is what the DEP figures from aerial survey.
from aerials, yes, that's why they tell you.
It
need to
really
consultant.
needs-
Yeah,
Somebody on the ground. The trouble is if the the neighbor obviously will not want someone to delineate the wetlands on his property.
That's the thing,
I
yeah.
was gonna say, you
But
can't do
the
anything.
DEP should be saying that he can't put up a fence there without a letter of interpretation. which is
But they're
essentially-
saying we have to, or my neighbor has to hire an environmental consultant to apply for the LOI.
They do, they have to hire, yes, they do, not you, they do.
But they would have to do that if they want to get a fence.
Right.
What's the ordinance that you can give her?
We don't have,
It's
we don't
not-
have any enforcement power.
All I want, I guess, is for everyone to be aware, because Daryl, I have gone to talk to Daryl, and I said, Daryl, if they apply for a fence permit, you have to tell them they have to go through the DEP first. So Daryl's aware of that. So wow, that's a huge, well, that makes sense, because that's where we saw the turtle. That makes sense. Daryl's aware of it. The DEP said they can't do anything, unless I see them putting up a fence.
Excuse me, could I interject? I mean, I worked at Rutgers, these bureaucracies. You get an answer, usually they say no first. I go up the chain of command. You want to know who you're talking to, what their authority is. I don't take the first
You
no.
mean like at the DEP?
Yeah.
Yeah,
talked
Were you
to-
talking to
I
a
talked-
secretary?
No, I was talking to the lady who was in charge of wetlands.
Who's
name
her
is
boss?
Alyssa, and then, yes, I also did do that. Then I called a woman named Ivana, and she gave me more information, which I can't remember right now.
Let's know who you're talking to
Yes.
and.
I asked to
go up the
speak
chain.
to a supervisor, and then that was Ivana. But basically, everyone has told me that I have to hire an environmental consultant to like figure this all out, which
Well, you couldn't hire though an environmental consultant for their property, you
Exactly.
couldn't have it done on their property
So I
without their
just feel
approval.
stuck.
Basically, the thing is I think the reason that DEP is telling her, I can't speak, but I think the reason DEP is telling Lisa that they can't do anything right now is because the neighbor hasn't done anything yet. All they've done is tell her that they're going to put a fence up.
It's the intent, it's not the
Right,
action.
so they're basically saying, what can we do? We can't go there and preemptively say, hi, we just want to let you know that you may not be able to put this fence
So
up.
someone from Township needs to remind the owner that they need to go to DEP to get.
For permitting, yeah, so you gotta
I mean,
apply ahead of time.
Yes, yes, I mean, I guess that could be the case, although the problem is that we wouldn't, we wouldn't go to anyone who has the thought of putting a fence up and being like, hi, we're the township and we're here to remind you that you're
So
thinking about putting a fence up, so you have to get this approval done. We wait till they apply for
Okay,
that.
okay, so they have to apply first.
And Daryl's aware
Yes.
of it, and if they apply for it, Daryl's gonna intercept it and tell them they have to
Okay.
go through the.
So
Yeah.
that's the route,
Yes,
yeah.
and he would absolutely, as part of his review for the fence permit, he absolutely would do that.
Okay, so that part of it, I guess I can calm down about. What about the pesticide bamboo thing? I don't know what to do.
And you don't know for sure, though, that they want to use pesticides, you think they're gonna use pesticides.
I know for sure that they don't have any money. And so they're gonna do this the cheapest way possible, and I've heard from everyone that eradicating it by digging it up is horribly expensive.
It's expensive, it's the only way, though, that it'll ever stay away, that's the thing.
I mean, I think overall, the ordinance needs to be updated or amended, or however you call that, and say that the only acceptable way of removing it is to dig it up.
That's something we could consider.
Yeah.
As a motion to
That
bring
we
to the
could
town
consider.
council
Yeah,
to amend this.
that's
ordinance.
something we actually could consider, yeah. So the bamboo ordinance, just so you know, is under chapter 222, which is trees and vegetation.
Oh, I read it.
Yep, okay, yep.
And I noticed that it didn't say proper way of eradicating.
Yeah.
Your objection to the herbicide is?
Putting it on the wetlands.
Putting it on the wetlands,
So everything.
Affecting the
it's
trees.
just, I've done everything I can to attract wildlife and birds, and to think of that whole area doused with herbicides, just literally, I'm losing sleep over it.
We have what's in a preserved area, what you can do.
Oh, the DEP says that there's very specific rules of what you can use on wetlands, and the person, if he were to use anything on the wetlands, needs a special permit, he needs a special license. But again, these people don't even know they're on wetland, so they're just gonna hire whatever bamboo company and say, get rid of this stuff the cheapest way possible, and then I'm gonna be looking at something that's too late to fix.
On our township open spaces, our policy, the township's policy is we do not use herbicide or pesticide. So when we have to remove bamboo, we dig it up. Or, when we are treating our wetlands for any type of vegetation or anything, we do not spray. We absolutely do not.
Along Canal Road, they spray pesticide the whole way,
Along Canal Road,
along the wooden barrier, the,
right.
call it the barrier.
Right.
It's all
Yeah,
sprayed.
letter A, can you raise the text a little bit?
Herbicides.
I suspect that the herbicide affects mainly
Those are the
dicot
exemptions of when you're allowed to have bamboo.
dicot
There.
plants.
Already,
Bamboo is a
it can stay.
monocot, may not be.
Yeah, so it has to be at least 10 feet away from the property, or you can grow it in a pot.
When I read about what's used to eradicate the bamboo in terms of herbicides, it says it's like that horrible glyphosate stuff. It said it will kill everything. It will not just kill the bamboo. It will kill everything on contact.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can't, I
That's
just.
a roundup.
Weed grow.
What?
America's wheat.
Ah!
It's about, you're required to notify.
Brussels sprouts.
Yes, that is the,
Mainly soybean.
Mainly soybean.
under exemptions, you're under exemptions. If you want, yes, if you're growing it in a pot, or there is some reason that's like already existing there or whatever, then yes, then you're required to, I guess, notify that you would be doing this under an exemption.
Is there any other way, well, first of all, to amend that ordinance to say that herbicides can't be used, but is there another way that says, if you received a summons from the town or a violation, you have to submit your plan for eradication to the town so the town can approve how you're going to eradicate it? That would be a secondary way, checks and balances to make sure,
Yeah.
they should tell Daryl what their plan is to eradicate it.
Yeah, I mean, we can, as the Environmental Commission, we can absolutely make a recommendation that an ordinance be amended. And basically how that works is we would put together a recommendation that goes to council, and council would then, approve or modify or
But
deny.
it would be two things. It would say no herbicides, but it would also say, for instance, if your property is bordering town open space or on wetlands, you need to have your plan for eradication approved by zoning before going forward with it. And then you have a two-part plan to make sure that this doesn't happen.
That part, yes, we could recommend that. Now, that part would be up to zoning if they if they thought that was something they would want to do.
Okay,
Well, we can absolutely make that, I mean, if the commission wanted to make that recommendation, they can.
thank you.
They definitely can, if they choose to do so.
And what about the part about this water
That was
table
my next thought.
and all this water being just pumped out? Literally, it seems to me, and I'm not an engineer and I'm not an environmental specialist, but they're trying to put bedrooms in the basement. Water table is obviously, water is seeping in through the cinder blocks, which are 50 years old. Water constantly seeping in. Then they're pumping it out the front, and then it's coming out this way, and then it's mixing with all their construction silt, and then it's running back into the wetlands.
That's definitely a zoning that sounds like if what you're saying is correct, and I don't deny that it is, I just haven't seen it myself, that's absolutely would be a zoning or construction violation, and so that's the office that you should be
But
calling.
here's the problem that I ran into is he said it's not a violation because just by telling the town that they wanted to finish their basement, nobody looked at the water table. You only look at the water table apparently if they were trying to make their basement bigger or something, but because they're only trying to finish an existing basement,
Got it.
nobody looked at the
But
water
I think
table.
ultimately it is their problem, because if they realize they have to pump so much water out, they are actually risking the property damage in the basement. So they may as well retract from the
But in
project.
the meantime, all this silt is all going back into the wetlands. It's all pumping into the front of the house.
Well, if it goes
mixing with
into
all the
wetlands, that's
silt.
where it belongs. right?
But Ted, would that?
But now it's mixing with all the construction debris and all the silt, and that's what Shaw said today. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
He said, first, it's a major mosquito problem, and that he's
Right.
gonna notify the county. But second, all the water, which we should have just left alone in the water table, is now being pumped through all the construction silt, and it's just, oh my God.
He's gonna notify that the wetlands are a mosquito.
He's gonna notify the county mosquito
No,
commission.
the mosquito problem is coming from all the water that's pumping from the front of the house and just sitting there now.
So he's gonna notify the county board of health, basically.
It's just a disaster.
That part, so that's a conundrum for us, only because of the environmental commission, we do review site plans. But, you know, our jurisdiction is basically, you know, looking for environmental concerns and constraints as it relates to, you know, increased square footage, or, so, you know, basically, renovating an existing space where you're not creating more impervious coverage or square
Okay.
footage. That's not something we would look at in particular. But what you're saying, the mixing of the water and the silt onto your property,
And then it's
I would
all going straight
assume-
back into the woods.
yeah, I would assume that has to be some kind of something, right, Ted, or no? I don't know.
Well, if the water is running onto your property,
Yeah,
you could hire a lawyer and sue.
But
But it's follow-
it's making a trajectory towards my property and then curving back into
It's mainly
into the
going
woods.
into the wetlands.
so it's not going on your property, it's coming
I'm
close
less
by.
concerned about my property than the fact that all of this mixing with the silt is now all going back into the woods.
Inspection would turn up something.
Huh.
But they really only operate when they've got consultant coming in and applying for a permit. I think that's the
Like, this
problem.
has slipped through the cracks because it's such an old house and they said we're just fixing it up, but they're putting bedrooms in a basement where the water table, like, it's just all crazy.
When they go to get the wetlands permit though, to do the fence, that will trigger the DEP inspection, that'll trigger the DEP process to review it, and that should be a pretty relatively comprehensive review of these issues. So that's really what's gonna trigger everything that you're looking for, is the actual application for a permit. Because the DEP or the township, no one can act, unfortunately, on just like, oh, we heard this person is gonna build something. 'Cause
Well,
if
I have
that
a
was-
really fun way for you to act, and this is my final proposal. With something I came up with after I drank way too much coffee. But I learned that eminent domain, that township can appropriate land if it's an environmental concern. So I was gonna throw it out there that why not just annex that part of the wetlands as part of the township preserved space? You take my wetlands too, I don't care, but that wetlands part that's behind both of our houses, eminent domain, annex it to the township preserved space, and then we solve all our problems. Because now they can't do anything because now the town has taken over the land.
Right.
It's a pretty good idea. And in eminent domain, you can,
Ted says it won't work. Why won't it work?
Well, this would be expropriation of the property.
yes.
There are situations when the township can, what is the word I want?
These-
Put a binder or putting some restrictions on what can be done with the land.
Usually comes up in connection with affordable housing and things like that. I don't
Condemning.
Condemn
Yeah.
property, but I don't think you could do that.
It's a problem with the Constitution of the United States of America.
Right.
Allows people to own things and have
But
rights that
I
are.
did research on it, and they said eminent domain can be used for environmental protection. So I did read that on Google. It was an AI response.
Right, but it is a good point, like you said, I mean, if there was eminent domains and the property and you have wetlands right next to them, then what would preclude the township, like, how could the township just take those wetlands, you know what I mean?
Mine too.
Without
No, I
all-
said take mine too.
And you'd have to be compensated, and that would be money from, we protect
You're just
everything.
throwing it out
and
there.
everything,
Yeah.
But also, because there is township preserved land there,
Which is purchased.
yes, if they do try to get a fence or do anything with that land, and they have to go through the DEP to do that, at that point, the two parties who could oppose it are me and the township.
Yes.
We can oppose any plan to erect a permanent fence back there.
When they do the fence permit and it goes through DEP wetlands, we will get a copy, the Environmental Commission will get a copy of that in the mail. So we get notice, the township itself will get noticed, you'll get noticed, all the other neighbors, and at that point, then we'll have plans to look at, and we'll have we can actually,
But all of that is counting on Daryl intercepting the permit request.
we'll know if he needs the permit.
The key question is whether you have to get DEP approval for a fence or just township approval for a fence.
Well, I think it depends on the type of wetlands and the type of fence, is
And
that
there's also what's
right?
called transition areas.
Yeah, it depends on what they're,
One question, are you on city water or on, for sewage, or are you on a dry well?
We have city water.
Oh, yes, it. What
There
about
is,
septic?
there is a water line along 5H.
Yes, septic. Now, there's rules about the septic also. Then, so does the house next door, are they
Well, that's
on?
the other crazy thing, is they're pumping all that water right into their septic field, which is
So
also.
they are on septic also?
Yes, and they're
There
pumping
would be
all of that
everything
water
on
into their
that,
septic
not
field.
sewer on 518.
If the DEP requires a permit for wetlands, for the development of that wetlands, then it's not just the township that requires the permit for the fence. However, I'm not sure exactly what they're gonna need permits for or whatnot without knowing exactly what they're planning on doing. Like, are they doing more inside their basement? Are they planning on amending their septic field? Are they putting up a fence? So all these things would be triggered by that. Now, if Daryl knows about it, then he absolutely will intercept it. And part of his review for any permit is there's a checklist to go down. And if wetlands are involved, he has to do a cursory review. So we can absolutely keep our eyes out for it 100%. And what I recommend, if you see them building something, I would call
This is my
DEP.
problem, is that I go away in the summer, and I'm just afraid, like, I'm gonna come back, and there's gonna be a fence, and all the
Yeah.
trees are gonna be cut down, and I'm just trying to avert this.
Yeah, I hear you.
Don't want a bad surprise like that. So I'm just trying to do my best. For the little cute bunny that I saw, oh my gosh, I had birds nesting on my balcony. I have some turkeys that come every day to visit us. Like, I have to do my best to
Yeah.
protect it all.
Thank you for letting us know, and we'll definitely keep an eye on it. Ed, did you have a question at all, or? I will definitely keep our eyes out for it, and if we get noticed of it, we'll let you know. If you get noticed before we do, you let us know, and we'll make sure we keep in touch with.
And you'll try to
Daryl.
change the ordinance?
We'll talk about it for sure, absolutely.
And would you be able to send me a picture of that map you had?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can email it to you. I have your email. I can email you a screenshot of it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That would be awesome, because that's a way more massive area than even I realized.
Remember, that's an estimate, it's not,
Yeah, I'm like, wow.
there's no guys out there with the tripods and measuring and putting the markers and that kind of stuff.
But also what's interesting about that too is that there's no real way of knowing it's wetlands, and that the DEP was saying, oh, well, when somebody would show up with herbicides, they would see water and they would know they can't use herbicides. But with these wetlands, you don't see the water. So I said there's not going to be any red flag for any bamboo eradication company to know that they can't just douse the whole area with pesticides because you can't see water.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Lisa. I'll send you these and we'll keep you posted.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate
Oh,
it.
no problem, no problem. Thanks for coming.
One thing we can
Save the
do.
turkeys.
Thank you so much. It was nice meeting you in person.
Thank you for the night. Thank you.
Take care. All right, we'll be in touch. Thank
Do you
you.
want the door open?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's gotta be one of the longest public comments we've ever had.
It's interesting.
And complex.
Oh, yeah, no, we used to have a 5-minute, some people wanted a 5-minute. This was too important to stop.
No, yeah.
A lot of issues. That's why I raised the septic issue as well, because you can't really do much on top of a septic field.
Yeah.
Right, but we're not we can't do anything about that.
It might be in front of the
No,
house.
we absolutely do not want to go down the road of hearing someone's building something and being like, hi, I'm the township here. I heard that you told someone you might put a fence in. We
It's a
definitely don't
public
want to do
meeting, so
that.
it's recorded. so-
Right,
That's what I
yes.
was gonna, and we have it
gotta
in,
be
the
careful.
but the minutes are gonna be on the website.
Right, and that's fine, but what I'm saying is what she's telling us, which is great, nothing's actually been applied for or built yet.
No.
So that's the thing, that's what I'm saying. Anything that comes to us that's like a permit or an application, or it might be built,
Maybe also concerned that it will be done without permit.
right, and that's fine, but it's
It's
like,
not fine.
can we,
How do
no, it's not fine, but can we preemptively force people to get permits because we've heard that they're thinking of building something? That's my point.
Maybe send them a reminder that.
Yeah.
When do we stop doing that? When we do it once, when do we stop doing that?
Tell them that they need to get permit if they want to do something. I know that is unusual because you are doing it only because neighbor complained.
Well, I think you want to be careful because if you say to your neighbor at your barbecue next week, hey, I'm thinking about putting up a swimming pool, and then all of a sudden it's like, here I come, Tara Kenyon. Hey, Stan, I heard you're thinking about putting up a swimming pool. I want to make sure you know that you can't exceed the impervious coverage, and also you need to apply. It's a lot. You know what I mean? It's a lot. I mean, not saying that we can't act when something's applied for or permit. Absolutely, we should be
Now,
100%
if we were to modify the ordinance before somebody applied for the permit, then that stands.
Yes, correct.
So we don't
Yes.
violate time of application rules.
Correct. You are correct.
It would be better to have a letter from the township engineer saying that if you propose to put up a fence in wetlands, you will need a permit from the DEP.
Right.
Without indicating to them where that all came from.
And we send it to just that
Well,
one neighbor.
I think the neighbor will have a reasonable assumption.
A reasonable assumption.
Alrighty. Well, that's that. Okay, so that's
I've
it.
heard of far worse things happening.
Yeah, in our place, the water table is right under some of the houses, where he made a deeper basement, 8 foot, he made a 9 foot basement ceiling instead of 8 foot. The people with 9 feet have 4 sump pumps going at a time, 1 in each corner. The people with 8 foot have a dry basement.
Because the people with the knife
Right. Right.
and they're paying the bill.
Yeah.
But that's, the water table in this area is,
Basements are boats. It's in the ground.
that's why we picked a house on a slab and not the basement. But so what happened? The pipes under the slab broke. Over 300 of them in Canal Walk happened to. And so we had,
Places they break.
because they didn't put sand under the pipes, they put rock.
Oh,
And the heating, back and forth over the years,
scratched.
the copper. So I'm walking down through the kitchen in barefoot, and I see this tile's warm. Oh, there's the water heater. And that's how we found it. Also, you couldn't get cold water out of the faucet. You know, the water was always warm before it got to the faucet. And the insurance company paid. And what the insurance company didn't pay, the builder made up the difference. So, but a lot of us, there was over 300 like that in Canal Walk.
Something so simple. I think it was on the gas line.
Good point.
Seriously.
Just water.
Well, we
Anyway,
have Jim here.
I think we close the comment for public. Yes.
Well, really, Jim
Is that going to be public comment or?
No, he's on the agenda.
He's on the agenda.
I'm on the
He's
agenda.
on the agenda.
He's on the agenda.
I will say,
So I
go-
move to close the public, yeah.
I was just about to do that. Make a motion to close, close the public comment period. All in favor? Okay, so now we're up to correspondence. Is there any correspondence?
No
Okay.
new correspondence.
All right, and we're gonna do Blackwell Mills before we do any site plan?
Yes.
Okay. You're on.
well, thank you for including me in the agenda tonight. I will say, at the Watershed Institute, we get calls about those kind of concerns every week,
I'm sure.
hundreds of them. And so I understand how complicated your world is. I'm happy to say we have a neighbor who's been battling against bamboo for the 20 years that I've been at the watershed. And she was horrified. She got her property cleared, but was horrified to realize that some of it was creeping onto our reserve. So she asked, would it be okay if she contacted a company to remove the bamboo that had crept up? This sweetheart. And it's going to be organic. They're not going to use any chemicals. So yes, it can be done, as you all know. But we have people complaining about their neighbors' sump pumps, flooding them out. There was a case years ago in Hopewell Borough where they actually required this person to build a berm, plant on it to try to contain the sump pump effluent. But it's tricky because sump pumps aren't triggered by the stormwater. There's some pumps that don't trigger stormwater. So
I hear you.
I appreciate your having to wrap your heads around this. But I'm here tonight to talk about the Blackwell's Mills Dam, and I can just run through.
Let me know when to.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead? So I've been at this a while, as Ted knows, because we've talked about this over the years. But going back to 2008, there was an initiative from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, NOAA, DEP, to kind of wrap their heads around this. Their Raritan Basin, which includes, of course, the Millstone River, over historic time was known to have quite abundant populations of some of these fish. So if you don't know these vocabulary words, diadromous fish are ones that originate in freshwater or originate in saltwater and go the other direction. So American shad are a famous example of anadromous fish, right? So they're born freshwater, they travel out to the ocean, mature, and then come back to spawn. American eels are catadromous species. They do the opposite. So historically,
American eel?
What's that?
Does an American eel bite? Can they bite? I'm afraid of
I've never
snakes.
been bitten by an American eel. I've caught
They
them.
have
as a
very
young
small
man.
mouths.
Yeah,
Look at the
they're
picture.
Huge! Bigger than my dog!
They are. We actually, if you haven't been to our nature center it's in Hopewell Township near Pennington. We have a big tank, and it's got eels among other fish. The eels are the favorite of the little kids. But anyway, so these agencies and a number of nonprofits in the state have been focused for now a couple decades, moving up on trying to remove dams in Raritan Basin and other. This is fascinating. There's actually this fellow, Johann David Schumpf, the best I can do to try to pronounce it, wrote this series of travel logs in the late 18th century and actually wrote about the Raritan and Millstone Basin, and he talks about the fish. So this is in the 1770s and 1780s. And I'll just read this bolded text because it's so interesting. These waters contain a multitude of fish, pike, goldfish, and suckers. Formerly shad also in numberless schools came high up this river, but dams, of which many have been built in recent years, keep back the shad. So in the 18th century, they're complaining about the dams that stopped the once great runs of shad. So there was a dam. We know the first dam that is committed to history was in the first quarter of the 18th century. The new one replaced it. But let's go up. So this is what the Raritan Basin looked like, where the kind of Millstone and part of the Raritan closest to the Millstone during that time when we got this Raritan Fish Initiative off the ground. The red were dams back then in 2008 that were blocking the fish. You can go to the next slide. So the good news is that 3 dams on the Raritan River and then the Weston Mill Dam on the Millstone River have been removed. The Weston Mill Dam was removed in 2017. That spans from Franklin Township over to Hillsborough. Be Manville, but it's not in Manville, then it's close to Manville.
It is, yep,
Yep.
I remember when that.
You can go to the next one. This is just to remind me how long I've been at this. This is my science director 2 science directors ago on the Weston Mill Dam. So that's probably circa 2008, 2010. You
Wow.
can click, I've got okay. So this is, there was a science director between Peggy Savage on the left and Steve Torto on the right, who's my current science director. So that dam was removed in August of 2017. By the following spring, these beautiful fish were already up the river past where the dam was.
Where do
And
they
you
go in the
click on it
meantime?
again. They go out to the ocean and then they come up the river. So they're very opportunistic. When they see a river that's free, they'll just go for it. And then the next fall, they were already breeding. So it just shows you, build it and they will come, take it down and they will come. So that was really exciting. Back in 2018, we were ready to go and go for the next dam. You can click the next. This is a press, I was very happy to be on the homepage. I guess not much was happening at DEP because this was the homepage of their website for weeks.
there you
Yours
go.
truly on the cover.
Or
That's,
DEP,
that's
or-
not a real shad.
Or
That's
DEP.
Yeah. So we
He's
had-
the new face of it.
we had a press conference. Everybody was there. It was great. That press conference was in Manville. So this is in August 2017. Surely
Made of rubber or
Yeah.
foam or?
it's made out of resin. Yeah, there's someone that makes these
Recycled,
things.
100% recycled.
Cool.
Yeah,
That's really
exactly.
cool.
Anyway, you can go to the next one. And then this is the press release, just that next year so this was the first time anybody had recorded these fish breeding in the Millstone River ever. Right, so that was pretty
Yeah.
cool. You can just keep going. Okay, and then you can hit another one. Okay, so here's where we are now. This is the Blackwell's Mills Dam. This is the next blockage on the Millstone River, right? And the last blockage between the Atlantic Ocean and the town of Princeton. The fish in that right slide, that was just a couple years ago, just about right now. DEP does a monitoring program where they try to catch different fish, to see what's coming. They caught 3 American shad that day, big beautiful fish like that, virtually butting their heads up against Blackwell's Mills Dam. Nobody's seen them on the other side of the dam, but they're certainly making it up to the Blackwell's Mills Dam. You can click on the next. Okay, so who's supporting this? We've been at this a while. We're joined by the Nature Conservancy of New Jersey, American Rivers, which is a national water conservation group, and Trout Unlimited New Jersey State Council. That's a letter we just recently sent last month to the Commissioner, Sean Monterette. You can click on again. You can click on again. So the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, NOAA, their fisheries branch, and quite a few sections of DEP strongly endorse this. There is opposition. The opposition comes, unfortunately, from the U.S. Geological Survey's Water Science Center near Trenton, Ewing. And their concern is that because there's a flow gauge located behind the dam, that removing the dam would impact the precision that is gained at that location. So there is a minimum flow requirement on the river, right? We want to make sure there's a minimum amount of water passing through the river to protect fish.
Yes.
But USGS says to make sure that we're precise in our measurement of the minimum flow, we need to put up a dam up that blocks the fish. So
And they're measuring the minimum flow, I'm sorry.
So they're measuring real-time flow at that location. So it's
Okay.
the Blackwell's Mills.
Is there alternative methods?
There's plenty of alternative methods.
There is.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll go to the next slide. There are a lot of gauging stations on the Millstone in the river. The yellow is the one that we're talking about here at Blackwell's Mills. So if you go to the next slide, I had a really smart recent graduate from Princeton University analyze all the data from all of these gauges and make these graphs. The graph on the left shows a very tight fit. Okay, let me step back. So at these gauging stations, they measure what's called stage. That's the height of the water above the bottom of the river. That's called stage. And then discharge, or the volume of flow, right? So one is height, the other is flow. At Blackwell's Mills, they measure the height, and then they periodically do what's called a ratings curve, and so they figure out the formula so that you can tell from the height, from the stage of the water, what is the flow, right? What is the discharge at that point? Most of the other locations, they just measure height, but they haven't figured out, or they don't spend the time to figure out the
And just
flow.
for folks who live
Yeah.
over that way, they use that as a predictive. So they
Right,
also look at
right.
the forecast
Yeah.
and they say this is when it's going to peak and
Yeah.
it's likely to peak at this amount. And they've
Right.
been doing that for some time.
Now,
and
10 years
correcting.
ago, I went down to see our congressman and former board chair, Rush Holt. If you know Rush Holt, he was the congressman who literally was a rocket scientist. That was his bumper sticker that I had on my car. My congressman is a rocket scientist. And he went to see the head of USGS at the time. And the guy that was the head of USGS wasn't happy to have Rush Holt in his office, but he acknowledged that the concern is at low flows, where they may lose precision, not at high flows. So if you're worried about an early warning system for flooding, this has nothing to do with that.
That was gonna be my next question
Nothing to
is,
do.
yeah, does it impact,
Nothing to
because
do.
that because of those, we have problems
Yeah.
over there, but it doesn't impact that. Okay, got
Right.
it.
It's just for water resources.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's, the Millstone and the Raritan and the DNR Canal are all kind of connected in the New Jersey Water Supply and the American Water Company, and they pull from one source or the other source depending on the
Got it.
conditions at the time. So what this shows is that there's a really tight fit. The data, the x-axis is the Greatstone gauge, Greekstown gauge, so that's stage height, and the y-axis is the Blackwell's Mills stage height, right? They're like perfectly aligned, right? On the right, it shows Greekstown stage height against Blackwell's Mills discharge, so that's the flow. Again, really, really tight. So what we've said is, come on, you got these other gauges,
Right, that can be used.
and you can still use Blackwell's Mills after the dam is removed. And how much better? I mean, it's very rare that you see anything in nature that lines up that cleanly,
Right.
that tightly, right?
Wow.
You can go to the next slide. So the other point is that a number of dams have been removed in a lot of states, including New Jersey. This was a dam in Pennsylvania, and its removal back in 2013 that also had a USGS gauging station behind it. So in that instance, they took the dam down and they recalibrated the data, and it's still working fine. And I should add that in 2012, a guy at USGS who unfortunately moved to another office said to our staff, if you can get us $15,000, we can buy a different gauge that will work without a dam.
Oh.
And we had $15,000 raised in 3 months, but by then he was gone and there was a new guy at USGS. Who said, on my watch, we're not going to allow anybody to take this.
Oh, jeez.
Now, mind you, DEP owns the dam. Technically it's part of the DNR Canal State Park, but USGS has been saying, well, we don't want you to take it out. So you can go to that, just click the down. Okay, so this is an example of how USGS can recalibrate its gauging stations. So the blue dots show the stage height on the y-axis versus discharge, the flow on the x-axis, after the dam was removed. The red dots were before the dam was removed, right? So they're fully capable of figuring out, recalibrating, if you will, the relationship between the height of the water and what that means in terms of how much flow is going down the river. And they've done it in a number of places. This is one that we know pretty well. Okay. So this is, I think, my last slide, just a little bit of additional background. So this is what's called the Island Farm Weir. Some of you are familiar with that. So that was built in the 80s, I believe, Ted. I'm not sure I'm real accurate on that. But that was built to make sure there was always enough water held at the confluence of the Millstone and the Raritan to service the New Jersey American Water drinking water plant, right? So that impounds water to make sure there's plenty for drinking. When they built that, they were required to put in a fish ladder. Fish ladder is a structure that helps the fish get through it. Sadly, the fish ladder doesn't work very well for shad. They work better for salmon than they do for shad. So,
Luckily, we don't have salmon.
What's that?
Luckily, we don't have salmon.
They work fine for salmon.
That's what I'm
They
saying.
work like-
Why would they put it
I
there?
know.
I don't like it.
Reintroduce salmon.
Yeah, there's someone heard this bad joke many times, but you know why the fish ladder doesn't work for shad when it does work for salmon? Because white fish can't jump.
Oh, great.
Hearing it for the first time always laugh.
I love it.
I've had audiences that just were ready to throw me out because it's such a bad joke. But anyway, there is a natural resource damage settlement. If you know about those, so there's basically a Superfund case. Someone was found guilty for doing something bad. They have to clean up the site, and then they have to compensate for hurting natural resources. And they have to do a bunch of different things to do that. So there is money allocated from a natural resource damage settlement to remove the Blackwell's Mills Dam. So this isn't a cost issue. And there's also money that's been allocated to improve the passage of fish at the Island Farm Weir.
So there's the full amount of funding is available. Really? That you never hear of that. The money is available, It's available to
Yeah.
remove the dam and
Never
improve
hear
the fish
about it.
passage.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
So, I'll tell you, right before COVID, when we thought this thing was going to fly right through, I think that the settlement had just been made on the financing side. We'd had grants since 2009 to do feasibility studies to remove the Blackwell's Mills Dam, to evaluate the sediment. You want to make sure there's no sediment behind it, and if there is, it's not contaminated, so you're not releasing contaminants. So we did all this study with money that was in Barack Obama's stimulus package, if you can, just to kind of put the chronology here. And then right before COVID, so the New Jersey Water Supply Authority said, we'll slow down. We're going to make some improvements and repairs to Round Valley Reservoir, which means we're going to have to lower the water level until we do these repairs. So could you guys stop pushing the removal of the Blackwell's Mills Dam? Let us get this done, because that is used sometimes, as a indicator of how much water they can bring out of the road versus the millstone for drinking water. So we said, okay, we'll be quiet. But we started meeting. So quarterly meetings since late 2019 with DEP Assistant Commissioner for Fish, Wildlife, and State Parks and Forests, Assistant Commissioner for Fish and Wildlife, Assistant Commissioner for Natural Resources Damages, NOAA, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and USGS. It's like 20 people on a Zoom call 4 times a year. I don't want to know how much salary is going into these calls. And the latest is that USGS is doing a modeling exercise to figure out if you just cut a little sliver in the dam, will the fish still get through? They also say, well, you can't just go to an old dam and cut a sliver. You'd have to take the whole dam out and then rebuild a dam that had a cut in it, which would be preposterous. So we're just trying to get, at this point, it's in the commissioner's lap, Sean Latourette, the commissioner of DEP, and he's got to make a decision. And the decision is either to take it out or to leave it in. So we're coming
Can I
back
ask a-
out to the public world to do some more public
Yeah.
advocacy on this, and we'd love for you to endorse this.
Can I ask a dumb question that maybe I should have asked right from the get-go,
Yeah.
probably? So, and maybe I didn't hear it correctly, so if you said it, I apologize. What is the importance of the shad? Like, what is the importance?
Okay, so there's several reasons to take dams out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So American shad are a big conservation priority, and they've been removing dams from Maine south to Virginia to try to restore this fish. And the fish are really important as a food source for other fish, and they're also kind of a indicator of a whole suite of fish. So there's alewife and blueback herring, river herring, striped bass also will go through the same migratory pattern. So shad have become kind of a cause celeb. There's a lot of lore about them. John McPhee wrote a great book called The Founding Fish that's all about shad. So there's certain people that have fallen.
So is it a marker or is it part of food chain?
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
So, and downstream somewhere, it is critical for fishermen and for us to have.
Yeah, and so the concerns about these fish populations is for water pollution, which is largely, I mean, there was a blockage in the Delaware River near Philly where when the shad were going up the Delaware River, they hit the bad pollution, in middle of last century, and they all died. So that's largely been cleaned up. Fish make
So
it.
the good way to tell is if how the water's improving as well.
They're a great indicator of water quality. There's ocean fishing that's a problem, and they're trying to get a handle on that too. And then there's loss of the spawning ground. So all the dams prevented the fish from going up to all the areas they used to spawn and reproduce.
Okay.
Does the shed have any mercury contamination, methyl mercury?
I've never heard of it. I'd be surprised if they don't have some, because most fish do. The other thing is that dams also can degrade water quality. Now, these dams, like Blackwell's Mills, the water goes over top, but they still impound water. And that wasn't analyzed 10 years ago. Princeton Hydro was the consulting firm we used to do all these evaluations. So where you're up on the upside of the dam, the water is generally warmer, which isn't a good thing in the summertime, which means you can have bigger algae blooms and bacteria blooms and cyanobacteria blooms. We've had HABs in the Millstone River. That's probably not a good thing that there's a dam there. And even little dams can be really dangerous for boaters and other recreationists on the river. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And so the ask is for the Environmental Commission, if they're supportive of the dam removal, to recommend to the council to do a resolution to the commissioner of the DEP
Exactly.
asking that he support the dam removal.
And this is the resolution, so you had sent it
So
to me. didn't get a chance to
I'll
print
be
it,
honest,
but-
I drafted this
Yeah.
pretty quickly this
Okay.
afternoon. If you're inclined, it'd be
That's what
great.
it is? Yeah, okay.
Yes,
You can,
yep.
You wanna,
Was it sent to us? I think something.
I
was
just sent it to.
Yeah.
You just sent- I didn't
send you
this.
So, so it was a
Yeah.
different one, okay.
Yeah, I sent you a letter that kind of gave the background to the project. This is the resolution they'd like us to consider sending to, us signing so we can have an environmental commission version, also send it to the council, right? As a recommendation that they sign a
You
similar
can
one.
probably just send this one and we can edit it. The
Okay.
council could add more things
Yeah.
to it. If you guys have recommendations,
We
you can
recommend
send
it.
them.
Right.
Yeah.
So I didn't get into the USGS and the gauge at all on this thing. If you
That's
wanted
okay.
to do that, you could do
Can we
that.
attach your presentation as a background for the council? Is that okay? Okay. I'll save
Okay.
it
Did you
to
get
my
a copy?
computer.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
gonna save it. I'll save it to my
You
computer.
can send a PDF to me and the mayor, just so we have.
Absolutely.
I asked you, but that's fine.
Do you have whereas that would include that there are many alternative methods to measure whatever the opponent?
I can send you all kinds of stuff on that.
That would probably be good to put in.
Yeah, so
Because
that,
that's the biggest block probably for the commission.
Yeah.
We would probably want to add something in, where as a community that,
Yeah.
sees flooding, we're not worried, or we understand that can be recalibrated.
Well, what's amazing is, with satellites, you can figure out, sea level rise, like within centimeters, right? And all these other things. This is technology from the 1930s, right?
Right.
That they're like,
Something like,
guys-
the reasons for keeping the dams are no longer valid. Something like that.
okay.
We'll get that in the minutes, and we'll make sure we add it. Right, Ted? Ted's thinking about Shad.
The shed have come back into the Hudson.
So, Jim, will you add that in there and
I'm
then send
happy
me
to.
a final?
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
what we can do is then if, like you said, it's okay for me to attach your presentation, I can do a quick memo with your presentation, the resolution, I can get it to Ed since he's our liaison. And then and he can bring it to the council.
Great.
Do we need
You
to-
know, we need a
Do we
motion,
need to do
yeah.
a motion now?
Mhm.
Yeah, we can do that.
A
We-
motion
we have a
to,
quorum.
recommend,
You give me the wording and we'll,
I guess it would be to recommend that the council pass this resolution with amendments that
Yeah.
are gonna be made by Jim.
sure.
Does that make sense to everybody?
Walter, you?
Second?
Okay. Ted, all in favor?
Yeah, yes, yes.
Get this thing.
I've just polled the committee.
Thank you.
So it'd be either on the June 12th agenda or the May 27th, this week from tomorrow. So if we ought to get together, probably by the next 2 days to get it on the agenda for next week, Tuesday.
Okay. For council or?
Council.
Okay. And hopefully I can come.
That would be great, yeah, so, and you have my email.
Yep.
If you send it to me, then I can kind of put everything together so that Ed has like a complete package to take there.
Great. Okay.
Nice job.
Off the record, tell you, I was doing speeches in the 90s across the country about mercury and the fish advisories and recommending that people use lamps with less mercury. That was what we were doing at Phillips. And I would go in a town where there's Albuquerque with a power plant burning coal. And the fish advisory was there, and I gave the speech. What I didn't know, there were people from the utility in the audience. And everybody turned to look at them. 6 months later, they worked on the exhaust.
Excellent.
Plus, in the Snake River goes from Idaho to Washington. There's a fish advisory in Oregon, not in Washington or Idaho. So how does that happen? I tell people, there's a sign at the bottom of the river. The fish come up, read the sign, and turn around. And that's exactly the reaction I get from the audience, and it lightens the atmosphere.
The fish vote in Oregon and they haven't figured out how to vote in Washington.
Well, thank you, Jim, so much.
Thank you very much.
So if
Yeah,
you
anything
send
I
us
can-
that,
Yeah.
let me give this back to you.
Okay.
I saved your presentation on my computer.
Thanks for your help with
I
that.
think sending that presentation will be helpful, right? That'll answer all the questions
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
might have.
I
Yeah.
think,
Thank you.
this war, it's me, it's Charles, and the mayor who are most intimately involved with the things along the millstone. Of course,
Okay.
the councilman, doctor,
Yeah.
planning board member, environmental commission
Yes.
member, many titles.
Champion
Yes.
heroes.
If you choose to install charging stations in your workplace, let us know.
Thank you.
We'll be more than happy to help.
We've had this grant to convert we have two big parking lots.
Have you been
into
over there? It's
Pervious,
I've been
and
there,
we have to
yeah.
get we gotta get it all aligned to get our charging
Get the
stations
wires
in.
in
when-
first.
Yeah, exactly. That's like, thank you, I'm gonna be in
Yeah.
touch.
Thank you so much. This is awesome. Thank you, Jim.
And thank you for the work you do.
And
Thanks.
All right.
All right, take care. Have a good one.
Thanks for coming.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks for your work.
Good night.
Turning our
I can attest that he's been talking to me about this for at least 10 years
I'm
now.
sure, absolutely.
Same.
All right. All right, we got site plan review. If that's okay with you?
Yeah, you said there were a couple.
There's a couple. They're relatively easy, so I'll just go through them quickly if that's okay with everyone.
Sure. Was that Laura, this woman who came from?
Lisa.
Lisa.
Yes.
She
Um,
has a very long Greek name that
yes.
I'm never sure I remember, but I have it written down at home. I think it's Kapsokephalos.
Yeah, it is. It is. That's you're right. Good job, Ted. Yes.
Here it is right
Rolls
here.
right off your tongue.
Got it right here. KAPSOKEFAL@gmail.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yes, she wants to be on our mailing list.
Yeah.
Once it's in my backyard, then yes. All of a sudden, I'm interested in environment.
Yep.
When it's in my backyard. Right.
The first one is Dale Enterprises. So we reviewed them before. They're on Churchill Ave. I think we reviewed them about 2 meetings ago, and they had previously received an approval from the township, but it didn't include allowing them to have noise, remember, outside, and they wanted to like play the wedding march outside to come into the
Marigold?
restaurant.
Marigold?
Yeah.
Yes,
there we go.
yes. So now they have an application in, and so before we were reviewing the ordinance, and we said, yes, no problem, it's no different. Now they're basically saying, okay, we want to put a covering over their patio, so it'll become a covered patio where they can then have their events. There is no new existing square footage. The only reason they're applying is because their previously approved variance did not cover this covered portion, basically.
And it's on the side of Amwell or whatever it is?
It is, hang on, I'll show you. I didn't really put it up too much because I figured this was
Just trying to
relatively
figure how
easy.
close is it to Mrs. Peterson?
So this is on Churchill Ave. You know, did I put up the site plan? Let me see here. No, this is the Farmer's Market Toolkit, okay. It's the existing patio, so give me a sec here now. Dale.
It could be on the side of Hamilton.
So the patio's already existing. That's their,
But that's where the noise will be coming from.
yes. Okay.
Maybe the top will keep, the sound will go right through it, but
So give me 1 second here. So we're looking at,
Which one is Churchill? Which one is?
this is Churchill over here, and this is where they're looking to put, it's like right against the parking lot.
So it's closer to.
So when I reviewed it, my comment, just like last time, is I think no comment, unless anyone has a comment. They're not putting any new impervious coverage down, they're not adding any square footage, they want to put a covering over the existing patio.
it doesn't affect the trees, it
No,
doesn't affect anything.
they're not removing trees, they're not doing anything. Okay, that one's good. All right, then we have, let me go back to my notes here. Okay, so we just did Dale. Okay, now we got Anya James. Anya, all right, let me close this so I don't get confused here. Who's this now? I have them all up here. Let's close these people. Okay. Anya James, that's how to, I'm sorry guys, bear with me 1 sec here. Anya James, let's see. So what she wants to do while I'm looking for her application, is this the one? No, that's a different one. What she basically wants to do, she's located at 22 Patton Road. They want to put a pool in. It exceeds the 25% impervious coverage. So instead of 25% impervious coverage, they would have 26.1% impervious coverage. That's what they're applying for. Here we go. Here's the site plan, Anya James. So here's her 1-story dwelling. Here's the pool they're looking to put in. Let me see if she says anything that might be of interest here. Recreational value, that's what she wants. Okay. Property is currently at the maximum impervious coverage at 25%. So basically, she wouldn't be able to put anything else on her property because she's already at the maximum coverage of 25%, and they would like to put this pool in.
And the pool cannot be designed smaller?
I'm sure it could be.
Yeah, but no matter what the pool size was, it would still
It's
be.
gonna still be
It
over.
would still be over.
So she's gonna be over by 1.1%.
Well, so the pool itself doesn't count as impervious. It's just the patio around it.
The area around it.
Oh, well, that still has something to do with.
Is that right? Yeah.
I should think the pool would count.
I was just thinking the same thing. I'm like,
Water
what?
flowing into it
Yeah.
does not go into the ground.
It does, yeah. The whole thing counts as impervious,
More
correct?
concrete pool?
I think it does. It doesn't.
It used to.
Oh, okay, perfect,
But
okay.
according to Vince Dominic, they changed it, and the pool doesn't count, it's just the patio.
The area
itself.
around it. So we can recommend that it be pervious around it, pervious pavers around it, or grass pavers or something. Do I recommend that? Around the pool?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of types of pervious pavers, that have the sort of open work rather than the,
Pervious or grass pavers. We also, in our blurb about impervious coverage, it basically says we recommend you get the impervious coverage as close to what's allowable as possible. And some ways would be, grass pavers, and then I can put a note that says like reduce size of pool, grass
Could also
pavers,
be the-
pervious, whatever.
The paved driveway could go to something that's more pervious
Yeah,
or has.
just add pervious. Okay.
That would
I
be
guess the
That makes
reason
sense.
why it's not considered impervious, the pool, because it inherently retains water. So if it rains,
It does, but it doesn't
yes.
seep into the ground, so it's kind of interesting. It retains it, but it doesn't seep in, so it's kind of interesting. But
holding. It's the same
Yeah.
thing as like a retention basin.
Yeah.
That wouldn't count as
Maybe it would
impervious.
evaporate eventually or something, but
It's rare you have to empty them, but
that's true.
sometimes we get rains like we just had.
Right, right.
I don't know how your pool is. Is it getting close to the top?
well, I mean, I empty mine every spring.
Yeah.
and to clean it,
Yeah.
because we don't have a cover, and this year I painted it. It was a lot of work, and then the people from Gorland Pool who, get it started in the spring came just today,
Okay.
so.
So he's not
Yeah.
worried. We
But
got like
it's-
3 inches of rain last week, so like it could get, if you were close to the top, you could get very close, and then it's going to get 2 inches this week, an inch and a half.
Yeah.
You start to really realize this year, like the pool is the rain gauge.
That's true.
But you're rarely empty.
Yeah.
It's very,
Yeah.
it really holds on to it, so.
That's not a certified rain gauge, you can't do that.
The next one we have is, it's JAT2 LLC. It's actually the Jersey Mike's on Veronica Avenue. What they are looking to do is put a sign on their side of the side of their building that says Jersey Mike's, like this. It's not a freestanding sign. It's going to be affixed to the building. The reason they're applying is because technically this sign exceeds the height, and it also is a second sign. They're saying they would like this sign on the side of the building because there's no entrance there, so they'd like it.
where in Veronica it is?
Johnny's Mike's, I go to lunch every once in a while.
84 Veronica Ave,
It's over where the new Dunkin' Donuts is,
So
right
it's
in the corner.
right here, see?
Right,
So it's close to
Just a
Route 27, right?
Yes.
yeah.
I see.
It's on
Yeah, and
Cedar
it
Road.
opens to the back, so unless
Yeah.
you're coming
So,
from Hamilton, you don't see it.
Well, this is a different one. It's not the one on Veronica.
Here's
Oh,
27
that's
right
the
here.
one.
They
It's
want
not the
to
one on
grab
Cedar
attention.
Road.
They
Oh,
do.
no, it's.
But it's not gonna be, it's not a freestanding
This one is
sign. They want to
new.
put it on the
Oh.
building,
If anything, it's distraction
Yeah,
from, but this is not an environmental
right.
sign.
All right,
Where is
so
it? Oh yeah, I think it's probably fine.
it's
The Dunkin'
just,
Donuts sign is there.
the Dunkin' Donuts sign is there, and it's on the building.
There's no real
There's a
environmental.
gas station across the street,
No.
one of those big things, looks like you're.
Yeah, that's also so
All right,
attractive.
then we got, this one is the next one. Hetal Patel, 23 Sunflower. Same situation as the pool, except for a different reason. They're already at the impervious coverage, which is 20% allowed. They're already there. They want to build a bedroom suite for their aging parents. That will bring up the impervious coverage to 22.2%. So it'll exceed the allowed impervious coverage by 2.2%. And their reasoning is basically, they've lived there for 16 years. They have to bring their parents in because they're aging and they're in poor health. And the property is already at the maximum impervious coverage. So they want to build,
What's the site plan look like?
this is the architecturals of it. So basically they want to add on this suite here to the side of the house.
So when the parents will pass, are they going to demolish that extra bedroom?
No, I'm sure not, no.
Because, we are debating temporary things versus permanent,
There's no site plan, just the architecture plan because it's an addition to an existing house.
But they're trying to get around impervious, so.
They're trying to get just the variance for the exceedance of impervious, yeah.
So is there anything they could do to offset it? Like, can their driveway be replaced?
Same thing, we could make those same
I
recommendations.
would say.
Reduce the size of the suite is one. add pervious features, rain garden. Those are all things we can do.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll make those recommendations.
Yeah.
The last one I reviewed is interesting. It just came in, but I figured since we're here, may as well do it, right? This one is called Town 543 Inc. I think, I'm pretty, now listen, I just reviewed this minutes ago because it just came in. I think this is going right across the street where the bicycle shop and deli is, what they're hoping to do. I think it's on 1695 Amwell Road. So that address is Amwell Road, and they have a bicycle shop and a deli.
Yeah.
They want to put in a Class 5 cannabis shop there, and they actually are looking for a use variance because it's in an R20 zone. So it's in the residential 20 zone, and they're looking to put in, this Class 5 cannabis retail facility. They're not putting in any more parking. They had a traffic assessment done, which said that it will not have any impact on the road. The parking spaces that would be required for this type of operation would be 12. There's already 19 there that are existing. And the bicycle shop and the deli are going to still do their thing. They're just wanting to enter into this existing retail space in
Next to
that.
the post office.
Yes.
The
And across from the
temple
municipal
and
building.
municipal building.
Yeah.
And they want a variance.
And they want a use variance is what they're recommending.
It's your
This
town.
is
It's your
a
town.
cannabis dispensary?
Cannabis dispensary, yeah.
I thought the council was putting a limit of 18 dispensaries in the township and no more.
Yeah, I think this might be one that's licensed and looking for a location. I mean, it's interesting because usually when they apply, we have to, the town's staff certifies that it's allowable in the zone. Maybe they're trying to relocate, I don't know.
Well,
can't say.
but this is in a residential zone,
Correct.
not a
This is in
business
the
zone.
R20.
Correct.
Requires
And this
a
is the
use
spot.
variance.
But there's already an exemption there for the bike shop and the other two businesses, right in that same,
No, they were probably pre-existing.
existing, yeah.
So the variance they're seeking is a use variance. So the ability to be there, basically, is what they are looking for.
There's plenty of places they could go otherwise,
Where
which
is
is
it?
allowable.
It's right over, it's here. Hold on,
It's at the corner,
What street is it? I don't.
Amwell.
it's that corner, it's the corner when you go to
Well,
the municipal building. on
Oh,
the
here,
left, the
here,
bike
okay,
shop.
the bike shop, okay.
And the deli.
Frederick's house.
That's what it was?
I just want to highlight the property, but you guys know where it is. I mean, there it is, right there.
That's helpful.
There we go.
And across the street are houses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they don't need new parking spaces. They have a traffic engineer saying there's no impact on the road. They're not increasing square footage. They're not adding impervious cover. They don't need any bulk variances. The only thing they need, which is a major thing, is the ability to be there.
I mean, I would just say there's plenty of spaces on the outskirts of the town, which is nice because other towns that don't allow for cannabis, then there's access and it's almost better for business than in the center of town because almost every major artery into the town already has them. So you'd have to drive past those to get to this one. Or maybe they're saying because there's so many people around this, you don't have to go to the outskirts. But the fact that it's in a residential area for commercial use, there's two other commercial uses there.
Yeah.
The question would be if the environmental question wants to weigh in.
In case that you get tired here.
Yeah, I need a little pick-me-up. Hopefully it's 24 hours with a neon light.
I've heard that, I think Jessica Johnson said that that business is owned by her family,
I don't
the
know.
deli.
I don't know.
So what's the thought on this? Just say, because it's a use variance. This is an interesting one where we have a use variance with no other requirements and they're actually not building anything. So it's like for us to comment from the Environmental Commission, really it's...
Well, I would say that, if they're not physically changing anything, then they're not having an environmental effect.
Right.
And therefore, we have no opinion. I'm sure there'll be plenty of opinions before the
Right.
Board of Adjustment, but
Because, our purview is to discuss what are the environmental impacts of this.
They're not growing it there.
No. It's retail.
The retail impression.
Not burning it there.
There's a hair place.
On the corner, sure.
I find that, yeah. Parking's not always easy there, but that,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Aren't those parking spaces for the other two existing businesses?
It's for the whole
The whole
place,
thing.
I guess,
But
yeah.
you said there's 19 spaces, but some of those could be allocated or already allocated
Yeah.
to the bike shop and the other.
Right,
They may not have enough.
that's true. It could be, but that's a traffic issue, yeah.
The traffic issue, it's not an environmental
Yeah.
issue. We don't have really a leg to stand on. You know, if you
We
want
could
to.
always, we can make any comment we want. If you want to say, we don't think that this should be in a residential zone, although it's kind of hard to say that, like you said, when it's like, there's a bike shop and a deli
Yeah.
there, you know? I don't
Yeah.
know.
would you want a gun shop there? You know,
Right,
like,
true.
people make-
You know, we
True.
could recommend.
That's why they need a variance, it's not
We
allowed.
could recommend they put solar cells on the roof.
Tell them to remove the swimming pool.
Right.
I mean, looking at the aerial, you see a big swimming pool in back of the house.
Where? No.
No, there's a swimming
No, they're doing it in the same footprint as this. I guess there's some sort of, I don't know where, because I don't know where they would hide it. Maybe it's the hair shop is going to become the pot shop? Is that?
Yeah, there is a
Potentially.
boutique there. Yeah.
From the description you gave, I thought it was the lot right across from where DeMont Lane comes in.
It's in that building, like within the bicycle and the deli.
Well, what's there now?
I don't know if
Is
they
it
say
an
what's
empty
there now,
building?
let's
Empty
see.
store?
The current
Same building.
variants have it within a portion of the existing building. The current bicycle shop and deli will remain operational. No site improvements are proposed.
I don't know where there's room to do it, but
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
just me.
I go to get my hair cut there at Raymond's.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
That had better not be removed.
Yeah.
That might
So
be the
how
thing
is
that's
the parking
removed.
there?
It's just in the back, it's not too bad.
Not too bad. Yeah, I wonder if you added a fourth business, what that would be like, you know, given that we're not.
They have a good square
The
footage.
subject property is a pre-existing non-conforming property and has always been used for commercial purposes, so
Yeah.
that's their
That's
claim
yeah,
there.
They're not expanding the building. They're not changing the building,
They're
they're just
not.
changing its use.
Let's look at the
Or-
architectural
Or
plans.
walling off some of the existing stuff to make room for a dispensary.
Let's see what
I
the,
bet they're buying out either the bicycle shop or the deli.
no, the bike shop just came back.
Yeah.
They just got a new tenant for that.
Alterations and renovations of Bilco bike repair. Existing floor plan, existing basement, okay, there's the
Oh,
bicycles dispensary.
oh, that's they want to half it.
They want to half the bicycle shop.
Okay.
That can't be good. You're not allowed to
It's
ride your bike when
illegal.
you're, that's illegal.
That's one point, you're gonna have kids there in the bike shop.
I thought
Yeah.
there were also complaints that we have more and more too many dispensaries in the town, right?
Yeah,
Because-
yeah.
There's one over by the Wells Fargo Bank.
There
Right?
are 3 in Kingston.
Yeah. Well, Ted said the council was putting a limit, 18, right, is the amount that can be in the town.
I mean, you can make a comment if you guys want to.
Yeah.
It's something along the lines of, you know, we don't
Yeah.
we don't find environmental grounds, but don't think it's the right location for a
Right.
cannabis dispensary.
If they're proposing an added use to the same building and the same parking lot, I'd have concern about possible overflow of the parking lot.
I do. That's my.
Right.
That is my
That's
concern
why that's
generally.
exactly what I was getting.
Like when I go there for
Yeah.
a sandwich, it's not that you can't find a spot.
Yeah.
But that was when the bike shop was closed. Now, the bike shop's there, people are dropping off their bikes, there's a lot of traffic, so you stay away from that side. The
It's a
sandwich
busy
shop
corner.
itself only has so much room behind it. You
Yeah.
got the workers, every worker takes up a spot.
Oh, yeah. See, I'm just thinking, like, the sandwich shop probably really wants the dispensary there. They're probably like, yeah.
More freedom to sell sales.
They're like, come on down. Although the bicycle shop, maybe they're thinking to themselves, or maybe they're not doing as great, I don't know, but they can maybe get
Maybe
more money
they-
by splitting their
They
space.
might not need all the space. They
Yeah.
don't want to sell bikes, they just want to fix bikes. So
Yeah.
they don't, like the old bike shop had so many bikes available for sale.
Yeah.
Now people are buying on the internet, or they pick out their bike and they ship it right there and then they make it available to you. So by decreasing the footprint, you probably lower the price for your rent, and that opens up another space for another use.
Which will generate more revenue maybe than the bike shop. does.
Maybe, but I think, look, we look to you guys to make comments. I'm
What
sure
about traffic, though?
zoning
That's
is
a
gonna
busy
do the same
intersection.
thing. It is.
They had a traffic consultant do a study, and they said that according to the trips that are generated by a dispensary, it would be less than 100 trips, and therefore it's a minimal impact to the road. So they have,
That's probably true.
People don't,
Probably the same-
why you need to leave?
Probably the same company that is doing all those traffic assessments.
For the other,
Yeah,
Maybe the thing to say from the environmental commission is adding another business
Yeah.
will
is the
require,
problem.
there could be a parking issue with more employees needing to be stationary there. Other environmental considerations, we don't see any,
no.
but generally, we don't think it's a good location for a dispensary right across from the municipal building in a residential area.
Yeah, that makes
And the
sense.
library, right?
Yeah, the
And the senior center and voting and,
Yeah.
community activities,
Got it.
and council.
all the things.
Okay.
And that's an okay thing to do.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, we can make that.
All right, we can do that. Okay. That's it for site plan review.
You didn't want me to say anything about NP?
Oh, I'm sorry. You did have one. I'm sorry, Ted. I forgot that you
I
had
don't
one.
have anything to say because I can't figure out what change they've made.
That's the problem.
They may have, I noticed that the current plans show a couple of sort of outdoor patios with tables, I call them amenities, and those may be added, but it doesn't affect my prior comments. The main comment is that they ought to have a row of evergreens along the side of the property facing where there's a house, a residence next door.
Got it. Okay, the line.
And-
So I can use your old memo and
Yeah.
use that same comment, basically.
Yeah, well, I think, didn't I send you, I sent you a comment about it.
Mhm,
Another
yeah.
thing is, I understand why they need to remove almost all of the freestanding trees. There are 3 right next to that same boundary where the house is next door. And they need to persuade me that they can't save those, because they're proposing to plant new trees in the same place.
Okay, got
And it's
it.
always better to keep existing trees if they're,
For
as
some
long as they're
people here,
alive.
what means NPE?
It's the name of this, it's just the name of the development that
This
is
is
the
the
end.
corner of Davidson and New Brunswick Road.
Well, they want to build that office building, the store, believe, and office on top.
Yeah,
And then the second building, yeah.
And I'll tell them they also have to
This name-
submit an update, a list of what they updated.
Is this,
Yeah.
is this the warehouse or is it next to it?
No, it's not a warehouse, it's the office building and
It's
some
right
retail.
there, right?
yeah.
Right opposite the entrance to Somerset Run.
Okay.
Yeah, another comment that I had was that they do have 2 charging stations, so 4 places. One of them is right on the front of the retail building. And my suggestion is put it around at the end of the building, because the spaces right at the front of the retail building will be the most used in and out traffic, whereas, if you're charging, you want to park there for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
So,
Got
but
it.
this is not really much of an environmental comment, except that we are concerned with charging stations.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
the other comment that was in the original comment, I think, was their trees include, I think, 7 redbuds, eastern redbud, and 6 red cedar on the side of the office building facing the stream corridor. In other words, right next to where there are a lot of trees already. Why
Yeah.
bother?
Got it. Yeah.
Put-
Okay.
But instead, they should be putting trees along the side facing the residence.
Okay. Got it. All right, we can do that.
But
All right.
I know I've written it out, Because to remind me to bring all of these things up at the
Yeah,
planning
for
board
sure.
meeting, which is this Wednesday.
Okay. All right, so I'll get it to her tomorrow then, as I would,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Well, I think I sent you.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. Okay, that's it for site plan review.
I have actually one question back to the application where, because they want to host the seniors, as an argument to increase the impervious surface. Is there any provision where, because it's kind of emotional, you don't want to say, oh no, you cannot take care of your seniors. Is there any provision that is actually double checking that there are indeed seniors awaiting this kind of?
Well, I mean, we know we need more housing, right? So if someone wants to put an in-law suite on their house, likely it's going to be used for somebody, whether it's a senior or a brother or a stranger when there's a housing crisis, right? So I think that for the Environmental Commission, the thing, rather than figure out like how old are you really, does it make,
Well, what if someone is just
They could be
making
just-
it up?
They could be just making it up, but regardless of that, the question really is how do you get the impervious down, right? Like, you don't need a driveway that is blacktop. You can certainly have
Yeah,
the blocks
I
with
know
grass
that
between
component.
them.
The other
And then if we
reason-
just say, you're gonna add
Even-
this addition,
even
so
the
trade off
driveway-
with this other thing, and you're gonna spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on more housing for somebody you know or don't know, or that's older or not. Like, that part doesn't really bother me as much. I understand that it might get people over the line of a rule, but the question is, like, I think for us to make a recommendation on how they can get more in line with protecting the environment when they do it.
Moving into a
Right?
senior, yeah, the other thing we know, and we knew it from Canal, people are moving into independent living places. And it is a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it
like, I
really-
was doing an addition for my mom,
Yeah.
and people might have said the same thing. Turned out, I bought a house with an in-law suite in it already that was done. I didn't finish the house. So, I mean, people could have thought, oh, they're just saying that. Ultimately, it's like, how do you get the thing to conform? So somebody
Yeah.
else that may want to buy it, they want to make it their office, or they want someone in there,
There's also a family feel.
Fees for putting on an addition really are not, really even the zoning board's consideration.
Yeah. And they don't look too much at the reason. It does make people a little more likely on a small
Yeah.
marginal
Yeah.
something. But I think the thing is, though, that we can reduce the impervious altogether. It's just going to cost them a little bit more money, because if the blacktop was just replaced and they got to tear it out, and that bedding,
But
is
still,
different.
we only recommend. It's up to the board that they have to mandate it, or?
Correct. They would have to make it part of the resolution. But if you don't recommend it, they might not think of it.
Mhm. Okay.
We're gonna take a little break. Tara has to make a phone call for her
Okay.
husband to pick up.
Yeah.
Incidentally,
Sorry, I have to
I
make
was
sure
told many, many years ago, was by Ellen Ritchie, that even a gravel driveway counts as impervious surface because it is so easy to pave it over in one day.
Yeah, it's, in New Jersey it does, but most places it doesn't. It gets compacted and it puddles. So.
Yeah, it's pretty impervious anyway, but her particular objection was the ease of paving one over.
Are the pavers with the stuff between the pavers considered impervious? Or is that pervious?
There's rules around it. If you can make it a certain set distance where the cars can still get over it, the water can find its way between and make its way down. But the bedding, you have to do a certain bedding with rocks.
Yeah.
Help
that's
it drain.
It's like having a little detention basin underneath.
We've seen a lot of people putting in pavers instead of the asphalt driveways
Yeah.
in Canal Walk.
But that is the same. It's still impervious.
I'm on the covenants committee.
Yeah.
And we get the applications and then we go and, we review it. If we inspect it, if we accept it, then they go do it and then we divide it up the place and I go and knock on the door and I want to see what they've done or, we inspect it and approve it.
But there are ways to make a driveway pervious. It is pretty expensive. So they can maybe do a portion. The front portion could have
Yeah.
little hexes where the grass grow up.
Yes,
And then
yep.
they get 500 feet less. I mean, the
Yeah,
driveway
it
takes up a
helps.
lot. It does help.
Okay. So, now we're up to new business.
Mhm.
The
Well, I understand where you're
Sustainable
coming from.
Jersey race certification, how we doing on the points?
So it's submitted. I submitted 405
Well,
points.
you did get that high.
Yes, submitted, and I actually didn't get, there's some things that I didn't get at all, so I submitted that without having some things, so submitted 405 points, so yeah,
250,
350.
350 really.
Yeah, we needed 350, so yeah, so it's been submitted, now Sustainable Jersey will go through and review it, and then by July 1st, I think, or June 30th, they guess their comments, and we have until the end of July to address comments.
Uh-huh.
They might come back and say, we reject a few of these, but you still have 350 points, and then we're done at that point. There might be some things that need to be amended, but either way, it's been submitted.
Is there a chance if they didn't accept all of ours, do we have an inventory that we can pull some of the
Yes.
stuff you didn't submit?
Oh, yeah, there's a ton
And it
of
would be
stuff.
acceptable to do that?
Yes, absolutely. You can submit new things, you can,
Right.
but I don't think they're gonna reject, like, that would be 60, that would be what, 55 points? So we gave them a big buffer, so,
Okay.
yeah,
Good.
so it's in and done. Yep.
Firefly Walk partnership with TAC.
Yeah, so the Trails Advisory Committee, we met last week. I did tell them that the EC was really interested in working with them on the Firefly Walk. So I am going to reach out to the Dark Skies organization and see if I can get some handouts from there. And basically, they're looking to do it. They think it's either going to be the second or third Saturday of July. Let me just look at my calendar here. The second, so July 12th or July 19th. That's what they're looking to do. They have to check and see when the fireflies are going to be the most abundant, basically. So that's what we're trying to figure out. But in the meantime, what we'll be there for is to do the Dark Skies initiative. I'll keep you
We
posted.
sort of talked about modifying the lighting ordinance, but
Yes.
I think it has, I like the way it is, because
Yeah.
it does lumens right at the boundaries of the foot candles. But changing the color, which is what Robin's been looking for, I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, well, that we can talk about more for sure. We haven't even, but this would really be to just kind of promote the Dark Skies initiative.
That's a different story.
And then the EC can be there, anyone who wants to be there, walk with the Trails Committee. It's a really nice event too, anyway. It's just nice. You get to be out there at night at the John Clyde Preserve.
So pretty.
It is, it's beautiful, yeah, so.
Okay. On committee reports, Maria's not here. Stan, do you have anything from?
Well, I do not have from communication or energy, although with energy we already went through that it will be 20%, up to 20% increase in June 1st.
17, yeah.
Yeah.
17 to 20. But I have some message that I sent to everyone, but I want to read it since it's a public meeting. So at Sustainable Jersey Summit, we had medium heavy duty EV show that was great.
Amazing.
Even though it was raining somewhat. And I met Lois Krause from Westfield. And she's now working at Beyond the Plastics, which is a very good organization, non-profit, that is fighting plastic waste. And so she suggested that we adopt a resolution in support of Packaging Reduction Stewardship Act. Now, Robin said that this is the same as Skip the Stuff. I don't think it's the same because it's...
No, it's the same as one she sent before, which we already did send in to the council. We signed the plastic reduction stewardship or whatever. We did that. We did it. Yep, yep.
I apologize for
Oh,
that.
that's okay.
Okay.
No, but it's good you knew, and yes, we did do that, so. All right. Sounds good.
She was asking about how is our Adopt a Drain program going, and I didn't really answer. I only assume, since you are not asking and reminding us, that it's probably
It hasn't been, it hasn't really been going. We did have 100-something adopters, but that's kind of where it stopped. It kind of plateaued after that. So.
It's interesting, my friend in front of her drain the other day, it was packed around with these little things from the trees, and we, Alice got a bag, and we actually shoveled the stuff into the bag. So we've probably got about 15 pounds of stuff from around the drain. The drain is called Charlie, and I gotta find out how to make the report, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But we actually did it, and,
Okay.
So, and that's very good. What I noticed, and I didn't check it again, whether they changed it, is that when you want to make a report,
right.
it doesn't give you option to backdate it.
So we just did it last week, but that's,
But you'll have to say you did it like today when you go to report it.
oh,
When
okay.
you go to the
No, we could do
report,
that, yeah.
You cannot backdate it, so it will be the date of when you do the report.
It doesn't really matter,
And
sure.
and I'm sorry that this is happening to me, but sometimes I'm walking around because it's close to my home. I clean it up,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, I'll come home and I'll make the report.
And you never do.
And I never do, because by the time I get home,
I didn't do it either.
Yeah, you
it
forget.
doesn't
Yeah,
happen.
I know.
And I could do it from my phone, but it still doesn't happen.
Right,
So,
okay.
and the other thing is, we do not have the option that we just make a comment, okay, no garbage, no garbage.
Yeah, I know.
Because they need to actually see a regular report, not necessarily regular cleaning, but regular report.
Uh-huh.
And so I think that this is something that if they improve,
Mhm. Okay.
give options, if, who is communicating with them? Is it Hemline University?
I haven't communicated with them as of late,
No.
but yeah, I
Yeah.
could.
Yeah.
I definitely could. I just haven't.
Mhm.
I know
I
our
found a postcard on my desk yesterday, but from Adopt a Drain. So maybe I'm gonna look at that and see what's in it. And maybe I can.
Yeah.
It doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter what what date I put down.
Yeah.
It's still done. And then we have, lawn cleanups where we have these big bags and they charge to get them, but our landscaper does them separately. Or they bring in another landscaper that picks up they trimmed a lot of our trees and everything. And that was all done with a separate thing. So, okay, so we're done with new business,
Yep.
old business?
So the first one, the residential energy efficiency campaign grant, so the letters from the mayor went out to the residences. Sustainable Jersey sent me a note and said that even prior to the letter, they noticed a major uptick in the website traffic that we've gotten.
Really?
Which is great. It's probably from our social media posts that we've done, our website postings, and I put one on FTTV. I think that the FTTV gets a lot of hits. So people are looking at it, probably also in relation to the increases that are coming. So that letter's coming out from the mayor. That was one of the actions we submitted for Sustainable Jersey. The next thing really to do is hold an outreach event, but we can discuss that another night. But we do need to do something for that.
What's happening with the update of the ordinance on the youth member?
Do you have any updates, Ed, on that? The youth member?
No, I didn't go to the last council meeting, so I'll put
Okay.
it on here.
Okay.
So Ed will talk about it at the next, or he'll look at it before the next council meeting.
Right.
I think I resent you the memo, so you have it. This way
Okay.
it shows like what part of the ordinance we're looking to amend, which is basically, we just want to add the same language that the advisory board of recreation has, or the recreation commission, recreation commission. We want to add the same language they have that allows them to have a youth member. We want to add that same thing to ours.
Okay.
And actually, I was thinking about that because in the past, you would bring intern here.
Yes.
Intern, it's a different classification.
Yes, that's not a youth
Right.
member. Yeah, they're an intern.
But the junior member, he could also have dotted line to you and could maybe help you with something.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
As
definitely.
long as it's,
100%. Yep.
really of something.
Okay.
Yep.
Skip the stuff, voluntary program.
I'm working on this with Robin. So
Okay,
Robin
right.
is putting together some advertisement and things that we need, how many decals. So once she gets me that, I can order it.
We were coming back from Tufts just now. I got back this afternoon, but we stopped in a McDonald's up in Connecticut, and they gave you forks and knives in a plastic thing with the chicken. And I don't think we used it. We used some of it, but there's also that was one where why put all that stuff in there? They didn't
It's
ask us to just
unnecessary, yeah.
put it in, and one packet would have been enough for the two of us. We share. But there was an article somebody mentioned on the web that some place was using compostable utensils. And with the tariff, all the other stuff the place is American. The combustible forks come from China. And it's going to be $30,000 a year more for this lady because of the tariffs. That fall under the tariffs from China.
Speaking of skip the stuff, when I was at Sustainable Jersey Summit, although I didn't attend that session, Robin did, and she briefed me that Bob Smith said that they are seriously considering now skip the stuff to take it as a state law.
Yes, I've heard that too. I have heard that too.
And that would be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
The curbside composting program, we had the tourist group in, and I went down and audited Trenton Biogas, but the driver that they were going to use evidently couldn't get insurance.
They still don't have their
I don't
insurance
think so,
still?
no. Robin put them in touch with an
Yeah.
insurance agency. I talked to this Anthony Wu that was here,
Yeah.
and I think the driver had some problems. And
So we're
our
still on
place says,
hold.
it's still on hold.
Okay.
If you're going to come into our place, you need to have insurance.
Well, they're gonna have that anywhere. They're gonna
Well,
have
that's
that
the whole
absolutely
point. I don't think they
anywhere.
ever figured that out.
Wow.
But,
right.
and so that's where they are.
Okay.
Now, there was another, when we did, Marie and I did the thing at the high school. And they had a composter there, but it was yay high and it rotated around.
Oh,
And it
yeah.
made soil.
The earth machine.
Yeah.
That thing actually works really good, but it's labor intensive.
It's
You have to
labor
go in there and
intensive,
stir it, and you
and
have to water it sometimes.
That we couldn't see
Yeah.
on our patio.
You do,
I mean,
right?
I've got 15 or 20 people in Canal Walk that have already said they want to do it, but
Yeah.
I don't have a vendor.
But they probably prefer to have it taken out.
Yes.
Because when it's in your backyard, it's great if you're using, but there's times that it's like, it
We
smells.
really don't
like
have
it's
we don't have backyards that you could put it in. I mean,
You
we've
gotta
got.
wait for these guys.
Right.
They gotta get their insurance though, because they're not gonna be able, it's not just Canal
Anywhere.
Walk. They're gonna run into
I
this
mean,
problem anywhere.
I told her, I says, it's not just for us.
No.
You gotta protect your own people.
Oh my
If
gosh.
somebody had an accident, they're driving around,
Right.
and if they have a car accident somewhere, and they're doing business,
Yeah.
the insurance company will take them,
Oh, absolutely.
They need insurance.
Yeah. I got
So
it.
anyway, that's what that is.
Okay.
And I don't have any other old businesses requested by the commissioners. Does anybody else?
Oh, I can make a comment. The sign is missing from my community. The two-sided sign about, what is it, about wait the mow, and then the other thing.
Oh, the
is
save
about
the leaves and the,
Yeah, I'm surprised it stayed up as long as it did, but it's gone now.
Oh, okay, all right.
Well,
I don't know, but we can get a
Says-
replacement. I can give you the name of our property manager, and you could say it's a township
What was
sign.
your goal on putting it there when you are not in charge of mowing? Are you?
No, but I mean, I took it for my community,
Yeah. You were
and I
like,
posted it in the empty lot that separates us from the houses, and it was facing the DeMott, very Martino.
oh, so you were trying to promote it. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Someone took it down.
And it, so somebody
Yeah.
took it, maybe they only read the one side, oh, it's
It was
passed.
super windy, so I did notice some signs really took flight.
Okay.
It was really windy. Like I put my glasses on the table outside and they blew off.
Oh, geez.
It was windy. We made the last few weeks.
I was just disappointed it was gone.
And
Yeah.
that sign, when I mowed, I took it out, right?
Well, we hire a landscaper, he's actually better than the last one, they're doing better work, but it lasted for, a few weeks.
Yeah.
But it had the
Another
message
one
on the
for
other
leaf?
side about
Yeah.
the leaves.
It's gone now.
But it's not meant to stay.
Maybe I should check the dumpsters.
If you need it
The
another
leave the
sign
leaves
for the
on
leave the
left.
leaves, we have another. So I can
all
get
right.
another.
Okay, well, we don't have any public to open the meeting to, so we'll adjourn that part of it, and that leaves us up to making a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Yes.